I did. Whoever wanted to look at this podcast, brought to you by Dre not being ready. Also, use the code word drunk at northspokanecbd.com for 15% off your order. And I'm reminded of that because Caleb was trolling someone on Twitter for us. So, we have our two favorite guests of the show because they have the biggest numbers. Thank you, gentlemen. And we decided, since they're both running for the same office, we would lie to them and tell them that they were coming on for a debate. But actually, we just want to sit here and get stoned and talk about life. Because there's a lot of fucking life going on right now.
Hey, I'm like, Adam going, yeah, so for this debate, and I'm like, does he not? Oh, fuck.
I knew what the plan was here all along, and I came very prepared. This is actually from Colorado, from our little Coronaphobia bug out tour, a gift of blue green. So I am ready.
Nice.
Good.
I just brought a couple beers because I didn't want to get all stoned like I did on your last show.
Yeah, the one where you kind of faded there at the end.
Yeah.
By the end, you're just like,
so when you guys were talking after the show for like an hour, I was like about after you guys were talking for about a half an hour about like all your stories, I was like, wait, are we still live?
Is that the last one we did together?
Yeah.
My eyeballs.
Yeah, you were stoned too.
That was a night.
I just took a little gummy bear. I didn't think it was going to be that bad.
I had one of those chocolates.
Yeah.
I was stone sober. I forgot.
I had the entire chocolate.
God, I don't know how. Like, I feel like a big boy. Like, I could handle 2 squares. I feel like I'm growing up and hitting the big leagues here. And you're over here. I took a whole one. I kind of got a buzz off of it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm seasoned pro, you know.
So I've been thinking, like, do you think, like, because Corona is going to be having like a really shitty time selling beer right now? Do you think like who would take a Corona endorsement right now? Like nobody, right?
Oh, I would totally.
Right?
I have the credibility. When people started getting scared, I threw a Corona party.
I saw that.
In Detroit. Like I if anybody deserves the endorsement, it's me.
We should totally try to go get that because one, we'll hopefully save their name, but like we'll also be like we're like the, you know, the anti-authority people. Like we're the anti-authority brand. You know how like every beer has like its brand? Like Corona used to be like the sitting on the beach in Mexico with the lime in it.
Beach. Yeah.
Right? Like you just robbed a bank and you're like, oh, I'm going to go to Mexico and sit on the beach and enjoy this money for the rest of my life. Like that's libertarian right there. So we need to like rebrand that with like the and we don't stay in our house during lockdown.
Yeah. Well, you know, this is developing naturally anyway. I got to plug my friend, Dr. Mary Ruart. I got to interview her yesterday, and I highly recommend that video. It was a lot of fun to get a grip on peering through the statistics. She's 70 years old, and she's going about her life as normal, except that she's wearing a mask when she's in breathing distance of other people and being consistent about hand sanitizer, you know, being conscious not to touch her face. But at some point, what they have scared us with, we go, yeah, but we are 99.9% safe if we just do that and we don't have to stay home. And that was all really bullshit. We're going to set what I've been recommending from the beginning is what I've also predicted we're going to naturally settle into eventually. The only thing that really scares me about this, even with the government side of it, is that it's going to they're going to come up with some new excuse and prolong it and keep people scared in their homes. But yeah, then we can be the ones to say, yeah, we're coming out. We'll put on masks if we have to. We'll wear gloves if we have to. We'll use hand sanitizer if we have to. But we're not slowing down because you want to scare us into submission.
You know what's really scary is like, so you think about, okay, you think about like the Industrial Revolution, right? You got all these big factories and they're like, we need employees, right? And nobody wants to work for pennies. So, hey, I'm going to call my friend who works for the government and tell him to implement a property tax. So all these people have to get out of their homes and come work for me in my factories so that they can pay you the tax, which means I'll be productive and I'll be producing all these things in my factories, right? Well, we're not producing that much. China's producing everything. So they no longer need the employees. So what do they give a fuck what happens to us? Like they send us home, lock down. Okay. So they shut down the movie theaters. What do they really care? Right. We stopped giving them money, but like, that's not productive, right? They shut down all these businesses, restaurants and everything. That's not productive. That's not production. So we're like, you look at like, you look at it from this like egalitarian, like, elitist view and say like, they don't need us anymore. They could really, just like you're saying, lock us in our homes and they don't care if we die, if we don't have the means to survive and feed ourselves.
So you guys hear my dog?
A little bit.
I thought my wife had him. She must have fallen asleep. Oh yeah. What's he whining about?
And then they got these fucking drones. Did you see these new drones?
No.
They say they can detect fevers and coughing.
Are you fucking kidding me?
And I saw like there's like the screenshot of like the what's coming in through the lens. Like there's a heat map, and then there's also the like when they were doing early facial recognition, the dots and the points and everything, and they showed like this one guy, he was coughing, and like they mapped over like a stick figure with the tracking points and everything.
I cough constantly.
And then
coming and tracking these people down if they're coughing or if they have a fucking.
Well, think about it. If they ever get to the point where they chip all of us, won't that be easy? Like people think like, oh no, there's a chip in your hand, and then like when you go to pay for your groceries, if they don't like you, they'll shut it off and you can't get your groceries. That's just the beginning of it, because you can read those things from a further distance too, right?
Adam,
did you guys see you've all seen the paddle boarder who got arrested, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How is he social distancing? How is he breaking any rules or endangering anyone other than himself if he falls out of the boat or something?
Did you see the one that happened recently in Florida? And there's a bit of the story missing, the way that it's been edited, being presented by the Daily Mail from this woman's Facebook Live. She shows a clip of her, or the Daily Mail takes a clip of her getting the drive-through test. And she's wearing a mask and she's got gloves and she's like, I might have been exposed, and she's being super precautious. And then she goes out and she's apparently jogging somewhere where there's some kind of stay-at-home order, essential travel only and outdoor exercises banned. And the cops stop her and they get her ID and they're able to look up her social media where she said she might have it, and she's able to. And they're able to look her up from the test database. And she's like, no, I said I had symptoms and the test hasn't come back yet. And they arrested her for two charges. One, of course, disorderly conduct, which is a nice little tack on in a situation like that. And two, violating the governor of Florida's martial law edicts.
So what did they do?
Eat it. Yeah, the governor can eat a dick. Is that what you said?
6 foot cell with other people?
Now, what was that? The governor what?
The governor can eat a dick. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
No, but seriously, when they're arresting people for this bullshit, what are they doing with them? They're putting them in a dangerous situation that is already shitty. Like, it was shitty before, I'm sure, with germs and disease, but it's even worse now. How many...
You're trying to apply a rational argument to completely irrational people.
I forget that sometimes. You're right.
Yeah, no, it's because like you have people like, yeah, the people who are out there like calling the cops on their neighbors for that shit. Like that's insane. And it's we're really turning into an entire society of people who are out there like calling for witch hunts. Burn the witch.
It's sick and disgusting behavior.
Well, it does. It is a nice demonstration of one libertarian concept, right? I mean, we generally advocate for non-coercive ways of controlling behavior. And I think we're very keen on pointing out that non-coercive means are more effective at affecting behavior. When we take a job, we're dedicating 8 hours a day of our 8 hours a day, in our lives, to something where we're responding to, nonviolent incentive. And that there's, like, why do you not, pick your nose in public? It's not because there's a law, right? Why do you not murder people all the time, every time you feel like it? It's not because there's a law. It's because it's the right thing to do,
Right.
and there's a social accountability for it. And if anything, like, we're showing that is a more effective mechanism than people give it credit for. So I do want to see the silver lining. I mean, I've been watching some of these statistics that I think Dan is referencing here when he talks about most people becoming a nation of tattletales and subservient wage slaves, and a whole nother level of submitting to martial law. There really is a sunken in element of fear. It's, do we have the potential as the movement of people who care about freedom, who care about seeing past this, to take this negative momentum and turn it around, because the anger is going to outpace the fear at some point. And when we come to that critical juncture, I think there's a huge opportunity. And I think whoever the Libertarian nominee for president is, but really us as a whole, as a movement, anybody who can get this counter narrative out there and say, no, government made everything worse in this crisis. We need to critically examine it. Now we can see, and I'm really optimistic that this is not a singular conspiracy, because if it is, they will have thought this through, and there will be a way for them to fight it. But if this is just like a feeding frenzy of fear of a lot of media, government, and independent actors, feeding off of this, then it's possible that, well, this is the first feeding frenzy of fear and statism and ripoffs and exploitation that has happened like this in the age of the internet, where we can check on things in real time, where we see the statistics right now, like even today, new numbers. The threat is less than we said it was before when we were trying to scare the shit out of everybody. Oh, how about, it's undeniable now. They can't keep up the charade in a world as transparent and accountable as we have with the internet as we know it today. That's my hope.
Yeah, I think that's a real. I mean, look, this is how the Democrats and the Republicans work, right? They take the daily struggle of people, just all the problems that we have in a normal life, and they point at each other, right? The Democrats say it's the rich, the Republicans say it's all the welfare whores. They point at each other and they say that's your problem. And we have like an amazing opportunity right now to point at the government and be like, that's your problem. And it's like, during normal circumstances, it's a little bit more difficult, but like right now it's just like fucking blaring. It's there. Like, you can't deny it, and most people are really pissed off about it, because if it weren't for the government, they wouldn't have jobs. I mean, they'd have jobs. Like that entire, what they're talking about, 33% unemployment or something ridiculous. That's 33% that are pissed off at the government because they lost their jobs just because the government said shut it down.
It's a good thing that the government can't meme. To rephrase what I know you guys have heard, right? People on the right saying the left can't meme.
The government can't meme.
It's statists, authoritarians can't meme because you can't have a sense of humor about being an asshole while you're being an asshole, right? So I think that's like, you can't, when you're, you can create infographics that represent, big government leftist policies. And there is this natural left-right dynamic where the right is more government shouldn't, government don't this, right? Where the left is, all these things that government should do. But, I don't want to give the right credit for being more small government than the left in any way. Two wings of the same shit for y'all. Heard plenty of rants about that subject. But now that we maybe this, we've had hashtag movements, right? That's almost passé now. Like flash mobs, very appropriate that this phenomena came and went so quickly. Ironically appropriate, right? But why can't we have a meme-based actual movement as the response to coronaphobia to say, look, now we're going to march in the streets. Now we're going to overthrow the government because we have the best memes. And now, like, it's been one of the, like, I think it's our friend Joey Lee here, my producer, made, I think it's called the Coronavirus Dank Meme Stash on Facebook.
Nice.
Yeah, is that it? Yeah, thank you, Sam. Yeah, so, well, we have, it's like, it's the perfect memeable moment. We should be assembling like the anti-coronaphobia meme team and having some deliberate campaign to have some kind of, voluntary unified branding or messaging that can just have a decentralized synergistic effect. See, I get stoned and I have these activist fantasies and just throw them out into the world and hope that they come true.
No, I mean that's a very realistic plan. It's we were talking about like advertising and branding strategies. That's really what that is. You get. I mean, think about it like this, right? Here's the interesting thing with memes, right? You remember McDonald's, like they used to throw those little toys in the Happy Meals, and there was this idea of collect the whole set, right? And what they would do is there's like 4 toys, and they'd manufacture a shit ton of 3 of them, and then they'd have one toy that everybody really wants, and like those were so rare that like even if you went there like 20,
it's like the Monopoly game. Yeah.
Exactly, you still wouldn't have the 4, right? So you'd still have to, and like, but it's this whole mentality. People become collectors, and they want to collect the whole set. It's like it's almost like, I don't know if it was ingrained into our DNA before this, or if it's something that advertisers have just like put into us, but that's what it is now. And when you talk about memes, like that, people are like creating these like massive collections of memes, and it's like meme lords is like, that's like a social status now. Like, I am the greatest meme lord. I have so many memes. I have more memes than you. I have the greatest memes of all times. The greatest collection. It's huge.
Huge.
Yeah. So like that's like it's you give people something to be fanatic about. Which is, and that's what Bernie Sanders has created. That's what Trump has created, something fanatical, like something to be fanatical about. And like, yeah, memes, like that's the thing. And then like the flash mob thing, like you were saying, right? Why did that become a trend? Because people were like, oh, I want to see the next flash mob video. I want to see the next one and the next one. And then it's like, okay, yeah, it's boring now. I've seen like fucking 50 million of these things. They're not getting any more creative. I've seen them all, whatever. And then it dies out, and then something new comes along. Planking. What else can you do?
Right.
What was the thing?
Taylor Swifting, isn't it? Or Faith Hilling?
Is that what it is?
You guys know that South Park episode, right?
What was it? What was the name? When they Faith Hill?
I don't know. It was like you pulling your shirt out to make like fake titties. And it's Faith Hilling. Yeah, thank you, Sam. Yeah. An assistant in this interview today. So they call it Faith Hilling. And then there was what was Taylor Swifting when you like drag your butt along the floor like a dog?
Oh God.
South Park has given us so many great cultural moments.
Right.
I wish that the meme, as in the actual meme, the idea of giant douche and turd sandwich stuck around a little more. Like I used that in a debate, and it felt like kind of a clunker of a joke. It should be a good reference, right?
Yeah.
Saying like, yeah, what do the Republicans and Democrats offer us? The choice between a giant douche and a turd sandwich. It just, shit. You summed it up pretty well right there. You can't get much better than that. And to just communicate it in a simple way, maybe we need to bring it back. It's giant douche, turd sandwich, or the libertarian. I mean, maybe that, like, there are people in the party who are like, oh no, it's not politically correct enough to say douche and turd. But I mean, it was on TV. It's like there's no actual bad words in it. It's just, appropriately.
Douchebag?
I don't know. Am I being oversensitive? Am I like hamstringing myself? Should I just giant douche turd sandwich and just start using that every chance I get. Make that my thing because I'm a South
I'm
Park
sorry,
fan.
if you identify as a giant douche or a turd sandwich and you're offended by that, that's a personal problem that I don't really give a fuck about.
No. I mean,
You offend my
I
culture.
mean this, no. I mean this incessant navel gazing of the libertarian movement of self-consciousness
Right.
of, well, someone's going to react to the yellow hat that way, or the beard, or you said fuck on stage that one time. People, oh, you got arrested. That's going to affect, like, no, like, just we can get our message out effectively the way that resonates with people who are ready to hear it. Be yourself. Be true to the message. If you stifle that, I grapple with this myself, and about staying on message, being about localization and volunteerism as the core part of my campaign. So I enjoy, being able to have a, kind of off the wall conversation, especially with this cool group.
There's like, this is really what I found fascinating about so Mark Whitney, he's actually like, his strategy is not wrong. Like, he came in like prison style. I'm gonna find the biggest guy in the room and kick his ass, right?
Yeah.
And he pissed off a lot of people, but he's right that because his whole thing was, I'm demonstrating what I'm gonna do if I get the nomination to Trump and whoever the other guy is. And
Sure.
And so as much as the libertarians were like, oh, he was swearing and he's arrogant and this and they all these things they hate about him, the next thing you know, like when I was in Florida, I'm staying with a friend and they're totally like on Hornberger's team, right? And like they're like, yeah, Whitney is such a, saying all these things about him. And like the next thing you know, it's like his first live stream after the Florida debate, and we're all sitting there and they're like analyzing every single word that he says. And I'm like, dude, he like, as much as you say, like, yeah, he got you. He's doing exactly what Trump did. He's got you like sitting, and then like he's saying some things, and you're hearing everything he has to say. You got to give him credit for that.
Oh, absolutely.
And so to your point about people who are offended by like the hat or the swearing or like that's the thing. Like that stuff works.
Yeah,
I mean,
get something. Like you have to do something.
Well, sometimes.
Yeah, if you do it right. Yeah.
See, and this would be my criticism of Whitney. I'm with you that his overall strategic concept was fine. It was rational at least, but his execution was,
he created a lot of enemies.
Like his execution was like B-, C+, and that was not a passing grade in this sense. Like I guess to say pass, he was like a C-, D+. I was trying to be nice, grading on a curve here, but he screwed up enough tactically in his execution that I think he set himself back too much and gave himself a bit of a ceiling as the guy who says fuck on stage a lot. And like, I'm not afraid to say fuck when there's an appropriate moment, when we're talking like adults about the word. But I'm conscientious that I have better things to say when you give me 3 minutes in front of a general audience. I'm not going to unnecessarily insert a word that is going to catch in people's minds if I don't have a purpose. And with Whitney, he came out in California, and in 3 minutes, it was the fucking A, Chafee, fucking A, Lincoln, right? Fuck the system, because Lincoln was saying buck the system and slurring it just enough that you couldn't tell what he was saying. But Mark was the guy who's going to say fuck on stage, and all the time, and I think that gave him a bit of a ceiling in the party for people like me, and I could see supporting him. It wouldn't, like, if he's the nominee, I have no problem saying that I would organize veterans for Whitney, but similarly, I would never vote for someone in the primary who's going to take that approach or is going to be that poor in the execution of that strategy.
I think so, and I don't know if this was done intentionally or not, but I think it was. If it was done intentionally, I think the whole you can grab him by the pussy thing was like perfect, because if you think about it, like you have all these like weird like Trump fanatics who are like, girls in bikinis with like AR-15s and like, the bikinis are like American flag bikinis and like crazy shit like that. Go Trump, right? It's like the epitome of toxic masculinity. And Trump can actually claim no responsibility for it because he never said that publicly to anyone, like Whitney's, comments were public and directed at somebody and intentional. Whereas like Trump's thing was like, oh, it was locker talk. Oh, there's water under the bridge. That was a long time. And it's like he could have intentionally created that and had it leaked so that like the frat boys would be like, yeah, he's really
Right.
cool. Chicks.
Or if he had done it years before, or like me at least, getting a long running head start as I needed to fuck up in all those ways last year in my spat with Bill Weld.
You had it. Whoa, I don't know about this. What was your spat with Bill Weld, the factarian?
Who didn't have a?
I never did.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I kind of want to see if Dan can tell my story there. Well, how did you, Dan? Were you like paying attention to party drama, so to speak, during your time?
After Johnson and Weld got the nomination, I was like, "Fuck it, I'm out."
Oh, okay, no. What I mean is in early 2018. So I announced January 2018, and he was the only one, making the moves like he was getting ready to run. And part of it was like, hey, I was the VP nominee. I should go to state conventions and be a general, cheerleader for the party. But it was obvious that he was getting ready to run for the presidential nomination. So there was a period of time before he announced that he was running against Trump for the Republican nomination, which I think was sometime fall 2018. But until then, from when I announced to when he announced for the Republicans, the race was generally portrayed as me versus Weld. And, a lot of people were, well, it can't be Weld. And so I really went unnecessarily negative on him in a way that, I see, like, if you're going to do Whitney's strategy, it's better to do it on my timeline. And now I get credit as being the guy who drove Bill Weld out of the party. And the reality is, while that's kind of cool to have had that bigger effect, I generally regret it, and I'm actually friendly with Bill Weld now. Like, we're not buddies, but we text each other occasionally, and I've come to respect that, having been the governor of Massachusetts for 2 terms and all the connections that he had to the power system and the superclass, he could have gone a whole other way with his life and turned into just another rich asshole. But the fact that he was willing to, slum it with the libertarians politically, so to speak, I think is a testament to the fact that he is at least more of an activist than a politician. And after going after him inappropriately, I came to realize that and respect.
Well, I think there's also there's the perspective that he.
Is that what happened, Adam?
Well, there's a perspective that he might have been doing this as one, either to, I don't know, just do something to help Trump along or help Hillary along or however he was trying to play it. But because he was friends with Hillary. But the average American commits 3 felonies a day, right? They wrote a book on that. And one of the stories in there was actually Bill Weld. And this was like, I want to say it was in the 80s or the 90s. And he was a prosecutor. And he fucking destroyed people using the state in the most obnoxious ways that it's not really supposed to be used. But like what were you saying about getting arrested for like public nuisance or whatever, like that? I mean, that, like, money laundering, most people don't understand. Money laundering is like public nuisance. Like, you can literally, like, anybody in this podcast right now could be charged and convicted of money laundering. I guarantee. So
what
like,
the fuck? Whoa.
Yeah. So Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, but what you mean is, like, even for me, like, I run an off-grid, off-record, under-the-table business now with my new business here. Big Igloo Geodesics, and I have the Garden of Freedom here, my property, where I have different people living with me or camping on the land, with different economic arrangements. And if I don't account for everything according exactly to IRS code, that's $20 or more, I'm committing.
No, it's not even that. It's got nothing to do with the IRS.
Hold on. I'm just saying I'm at least committing tax evasion, but by just moving money from individuals without filling out all the government paperwork, it's kind of automatically money laundering, right?
I would. So here's the thing with money laundering. Money laundering is basically it's the intent to conceal the source of money from illegal activity.
This is like that scene in is it Office Space?
Yeah,
right?
they're looking up the definition.
Taking the money from one source to conceal its original.
That's exactly what it is. And so, like, but here's the thing, like if you're like, let's say like we're hanging out on No Force One, right? We're driving across country. We stop at a Subway, and you're like, "Hey, I left my wallet on No Force One. Can you get me a sandwich?" And I say, "Yeah," and I pay for it for you. And then we get back on the thing, and then you give me $5, right?
Right.
That could be money laundering.
Right.
Why?
The government has a way of classifying that as a felony money laundering.
Because all they have to do is get in there, and the prosecutor could say, "Well, here's the thing. They were trying to transfer money from one party to the other, but they made it appear as if it was a loan and a repayment. Because really, if they would have handed the money directly, then it would have been, obvious where it can." Like, that's what they do. This is how people get charged with money laundering. It's fucking insane.
Well, realistically, they only go after people who are moving significant amounts, and everybody needs to be careful managing their liability there. But they've done it by
when they don't have anyone with a target on their back.
Yeah, right. No, they've done it by creating this legal framework that allows them to go after anybody.
They could use this easily. So I think we need way more libertarian attorneys, is what it sounds like.
That's like saying we need more Band-Aids. No, we need to stop getting cut.
Well,
yeah, we need a bunch of police and military, but we need them to work for us.
Yeah, no.
No, the attorneys are what we're the only defense we have against the state. Really, I mean, they're the ones that are going to defend us if we get into legal trouble.
It's right to an extent, but here's another thing. Like, so I wanted to be a lawyer for a while, and I got a stack of the bar books. I bought a used set of bar study books from like someone else who just passed the bar. And I was just reading through them and studying and everything. And then I started learning, because I was already a little bit into like the conspiracy theories of the sovereign citizens and everything, which is an oxymoron, by the way. But then I started learning, like, when you become a member of the bar, you're surrendering rights for the privilege of being a part of this private club. So one thing, for example, jury nullification, it's illegal for a lawyer to tell a jury that they have the right to nullify the case. They can be charged with contempt of court.
That's crazy.
So you have no freedom of speech.
Regulations on that, though? Like, does it, like, they have to be in court at the time, or, well, I guess they can't really.
Well, you have the people who are outside of the court giving out the flyers, and you've seen how they get treated. And
if you're going pro se, you can do this. This is one of the reasons why they are so highly discouraging of anybody defending themselves. And I just had an awesome experience with this. And this is like a video project I'm waiting to put together. But I just beat 4 felonies and a misdemeanor drug charges in Texas by playing the religious defense and basically making myself more trouble than I was worth, and without having to threaten to go to trial, just saying, I'd love to go to trial. They're like, we don't want that. That's going to cost too much. And so I was able to negotiate 4 felonies and a misdemeanor, drug charges in Texas, down to pretrial deferment, which is basically now $180 fine.
Holy shit! Good job.
Yeah, I had a misdemeanor charge, and they gave me. I told them I don't want an attorney, and I had to tell them like 5 times because they kept trying to give me an attorney. They made me sign this form called a Feretta waiver, which basically says I'm waiving my right to an attorney. And I told them I don't want to sign this because I don't want to waive my right to an attorney. What if at some point later I do want an attorney? I still want to maintain that right. And they said, well, you can't do that. If you want to do that, we're going to bring an attorney in here and they're going to speak for you, and you're not going to be allowed to speak. And I was like, what about my freedom of speech? And they're like, no, can't do that. So I was like, okay, I'll play your little fucking game. So I get the thing, and it's like a bunch of check boxes. I understand by checking this that
I had to do this in court orally.
What's that?
I had to do that verbally in court.
Yeah. And
I had a judge basically trying to prove by asking me a series of questions that I wasn't competent to defend myself. And I embarrassed him, of course, and I had a lot of fun with it.
They gave me this form to fill out, and there were all these check boxes, and I started striking out the items next to the check boxes. And one of them was, I understand that by representing myself, I'm putting myself at an extreme disadvantage. And the judge was like, why did you strike that out? Don't you realize you're putting yourself at an extreme disadvantage? And I was like, well, the 5 public defenders that you gave me all told me to plead guilty. I think that's a disadvantage.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
It's fucking insane, these people. But yeah, that's like, and the public defenders are all paid by the prosecutor. They're employees of the prosecutor, because the deal is, I want to prosecute this guy, and the court says, well, you can't prosecute him unless he has an attorney. Oh, but he can't afford an attorney. Well, I guess you better hire one for him. So the prosecutor hires an attorney. And then they give like 50 cases to one lawyer, so he can't even keep up. So he's just like, man, just fucking plead guilty. I can't handle all these cases.
That's so sad.
I even had, check this one out. I had a misdemeanor speeding ticket in Vegas. I was going 180. He clocked me at 90. Well, he didn't clock me or pace me or anything. He pulled up afterwards and made up some number. And I went to court the first time, and they lost their side of the ticket. And like an idiot, I gave him mine, and they passed it all the way up to, and then like they were like, go in the other room and I talked to the judge, and he had my copy of the ticket. And he was like, well, I guess we lost our ticket. We're going to have to dismiss this. This guy got up, and he's like, Your Honor, with all due respect, a citation of this magnitude, we really should take it to trial. And so the judge considered it, and he's like, okay. And I'm just there quiet because I don't know what the fuck's going on. This asshole that said we should take it to trial, he turns around, he hands me his business card. He says, I'm the public defender. Give me a call if you need help.
What?
And on his business card, guess what it said?
Oh my
Department
God.
of the District Attorney.
Oh my God. It's a sick, twisted circle of bullshit.
What do you call 1,000 lawyers chained to the bottom of the ocean?
Good start.
There's a reason that's just a dumb classic joke that everybody knows.
And why is all of Congress and Senate a bunch of lawyers?
Yep.
I think we should start with them, but we don't have 1,000.
Yeah, right. Well, what do you call 535 members of Congress chained to the bottom of the ocean?
A really good start.
Good enough
Start.
I'm fine with it.
Oh man, these fucking guys.
Those fucking guys. Oh shit.
So, how do you think the negotiations of the bailout, basically, how do you think that's going to play out in the court of public opinion? Like the back and forth that the loser parties had with it.
So I could go two ways on that. In that you look at the 2008 bailouts, and they didn't include the same effort to include individuals and small businesses. And we all know, at least in this conversation, that the bailouts are represent a concentration of economic wealth and power that is unjustified, that the market isn't supporting, that this is a power grab. It's about disadvantaging anybody who's not included in this. Even if it includes everybody, well, it's government-approved businesses. It's bigger businesses get a sweeter deal. I'm afraid that the engineers of these two bailouts, and it's a lot of the same people, of course, got smarter and said, look, if we're going to rip people off for all of our friends and us at the very top, we have to include people a little more down, the economic pyramid in America, and they've gone a big chunk of the way down that. And I'm disappointed that there wasn't more of a revolt in 2008, right? That the Tea Party movement wasn't, more of an enduring principle thing as opposed to something that got co-opted to be the activist wing of the Republican Party. So it could be that enough people have been bought off that this is a smarter bailout in the sense that they're going to get more public buy-in, that they're going to be able to use coronaphobia to justify it. And this is the real fight, because my other hope is that they go the other way entirely, and we have, like I was saying before, there's a reactionary moment where we're able to buck these trends and send the momentum in the other direction towards freedom.
Yeah. I mean, I see like, you know, basically they were like, we're going to give the whole barrel of pork to all our buddies, and we're going to give everybody else a bunch of table scraps.
Yeah, it still represents
I'm happy.
a steepening of the pyramid, of course.
You know, there is a System of a Down song, and he says, "You depend on our existence, and yet you feed us lies from the tablecloth," which is like a perfect image of that. Except, like I was saying earlier, I think we're at the point where they've recognized they don't need us anymore because they're outsourcing all their factories. They don't need us to prop them up so much. There's so much automation. When they talk about the world is overpopulated, there's a bunch of people who want shit from government, and they're like, yeah, we don't fucking need you guys anymore. You don't need to run our factories anymore. We don't need you. You're useless to our high society. We don't need any more slaves and proles and everything else. We're done with you guys. Go starve to death.
You know, I really want to give you credit for something there, Dan, because I've considered that, and never has it been presented to me in such a way that it became kind of crystal clear like that as a natural phenomena of society is largely steered by an elite group, whether it's 100 people. Setting the policy in the direction of the community as a whole is probably going to be done by 2 or 3 people, right? And on a global scale, it's an even smaller elite group, and that they've designed society and birth rates more or less deliberately. And you know, they've tried in China with the one-child policy. You know, I don't know if I could evaluate or weigh in on how that's going, but certainly with, you think about what do they want, what do they need, whereas before they benefited when we needed massive amounts of labor and agriculture to support the luxuries of the kings. Yeah, you don't need it anymore. Yeah, it really makes sense that there would be, you know, I don't want to get paranoid here and say Bill Gates is trying to kill everybody with vaccines. Yeah, there's a natural in motivation.
Agenda 21.
So are you guys going to take the vaccine if they come out with a coronavirus vaccine?
I'm going to take 3. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I'm not real keen to get on that bandwagon.
I'm a vet who goes to
I already have my corona shot.
I'm sure that I'm going to get like voluntold for that one.
So a lot of people are saying that they're going to put like, you know, a tracking chip in that. And I've also heard that the syringe and needle that you get a vaccine in and one that you would need to insert a tracking device would be much, much different sizes.
Here's what's interesting about all that. Like, if you think about the amount of manpower it takes to enforce something like that, like, I mean, think about like even borders, right? Like think about like, where is border control? We don't have an entire border protected. What do they do? Strategic locations. It's all the roads and all the airports and all the ports, all the seaports, right? That's where they have immigration control, because that takes much smaller amount of manpower than actually trying to, like, you know, have like one person watch every single person. So like, if you consider the enforcement of these things, if you live in a very dense city, it's very easy to enforce those types of things where the police like stop as many people as they can every single day. But when you live out in the boonies, especially like in other countries, like that don't have where people aren't so afraid of the police and they're able to bribe them and that sort of thing, like that, like it's not that easy to enforce, and it takes so much manpower. It's not really worth it. So those things are only going to be enforced in a certain way, and there are ways around that. And it really, you know, it comes down to like how you. Oh, that's a nice sunset.
Very nice.
It comes down to how you operate your life and keep your distance from all that stuff, because you can, like, I like to keep my distance from government, and in a way, keeping my distance from big cities is a really easy way to do that, because that's where most of the government is.
Right.
So it's trade-offs. But, you know, as much as like when they say like, oh yeah, we're gonna have surveillance cameras and drones on like every single fucking corner, they can only do that in a city where like population density is like 1,000 people per block. They can't do that like out in the woods where it's like one person per every, you know, 500 acres.
Great. So I have to move to the fucking woods. I will not survive in the woods, you guys.
Well, there's an in between. Like I'm just pointing out the extremes.
We are kind of the in between. our population density isn't high enough to support that even here in Omaha.
Oh, you don't think?
Well, until they're able to like mass produce like a trillion like little bee-sized drones, then then I'll get worried.
Oh, so this is way off. Okay,
Yeah, it's like
Adam,
30 years maybe.
Looking thing outside your window there. There's two of them now.
They're
two.
multiplying.
What the hell is that?
The domes are multiplying. These are the geodesic domes I make here.
So what do you do with those?
So there's one. We're making a house. So we're making a house, and we're making a greenhouse. And I made a jungle gym for my neighbors, and I made an outdoor planter frame. And I just came up with a design for this is kind of a dorky side project, but like a Papasan style chair with geodesic struts.
Nice.
I don't know, I can't really see really well with the camera, so I'm just kind of
okay. Oh, there's several of them. Jesus. So here in Omaha, the Henry Durley Zoo, which is like one of the biggest zoos in the world or whatever.
It is the best zoo in the world. It is not up for debate.
We have what's called the Desert Dome, and it looks like that with windows, but way bigger. So that's why I was like, is there going to be windows? Like, what's happening with this?
I don't think you guys really want to totally geek out on construction now, but I'll just say that this building here is a 3-story, 1-bedroom home where we have the tires around the base for thermal mass earthship style. The south-facing wall that way of the dome itself is going to be all glass, and then the rest of the dome is going to be shelled with a 6-inch thick cement block on each triangle, so that it has a decent amount of thermal mass there, and then have that insulated. And then so there's going to be where those. Oh yeah, I mean you got to stop me at some point, but this is like Earth because I'll take an hour.
Okay, yeah, I don't want to take an hour, but yeah, that's crazy. 6 inches thick of, you just say cement on some of them?
Yeah, well, look right now. You see the tires, right, that are the base of this thing? Yeah, the tires are like, 28, 29 inches thick. And that's packed dirt, like sledgehammered in. Like I spent most of last summer doing backbreaking labor out here with a sledgehammer, getting that packed in so that you have, super dense thermal mass where you have dirt packed really denser than a lot of rock, and that's what gives it the ability to serve as a thermal battery for a house. And when you're living off grid, to be able to design a home with a little extra effort in the construction and to pretty much require zero heating and cooling bills because you have a passive solar thermal mass house that traps heat in the winter and circulates heat through in the summer, and just it catches natural phenomena, basically runs off of sunlight and rainwater. You can collect rainwater. I could go for this is like my one hobby outside of politics and activism is alternative construction, primarily earthships and geodesic domes. And I could go for
motivation for the dome. Like why not wood or cinder blocks or like
say earthships?
Yeah, Earthship is a brand name created by Mike Reynolds. I went and I took the Earthship Academy in Taos, New Mexico. If anybody's ever in Taos, I highly recommend look up the Earthship Village, go get a tour, and see what the Earthships are like. So, Dan, to your point, why do you need that? The thermal mass. So the reason you have
I get the thermal mass, but like why the shape? Why a dome and why not like squares? Or is the dome part of the? Is the dome part of the heat transfer?
No, the dome gives you a couple other thermal properties of air circulating that complement it, but it's not necessary. Most Earthships. So, like here, this other building I built here. I don't know how well you can see it through my nasty dashboard here.
Oh my God! Clean that.
Really bad. All right. Well, we're camped. We're parked. Hold on. So this other building here that I did, you can see with that roof structure sticking off. That's we call that the camp kitchen. It's a 1-room. Tire thermal mass Earthship, and it has a flatter roof than a dome, but it has a rebar grid with mesh over it and a cement shell plastered onto it, and then a dirt roof so that you have thermal mass above as well. And it's designed for cool storage for food, to be a kitchen essentially. And I actually spent a winter in there. It was relatively comfortable. And in the summer, it feels like an air-conditioned space. It's really cool. So basically, instead of having that rebar and mesh roof structure, using a geodesic dome gives you a different shape to play with than this vault structure that's already got an arched roof to support that thermal mass. With a dome, you can support heavy cement walls that would be as a roof structure a lot more stably than you would with a square structure. And there's all the value of square footage per building material that you get with a dome as opposed to a square building, as well as the air recirculation properties. And so having the thermal mass on the bottom floor and the dome above it being able to circulate warm air up into the bedroom and the office at night as necessary gives it a couple other thermal properties as well.
Nice. Interesting.
How many inner city playgrounds did you take these from?
Yeah, right. Is that one of the questions? No, I've made playground like jungle gyms for kids with these geodesic things. Little sneak preview because we haven't officially launched the business Big Igloo Geodesics yet. But if you want to go to, we have an Instagram page and a Facebook page, and it's bigigloo.biz. You guys get the joke, right? Big Igloo Geodesic.
Yeah.
And we're going to build a shop here eventually. Like right now, our shop is the shipping container, but I want to, make enough money with this. What's that?
You have your own shipping container?
Yeah, it's right over there. See?
All right. Oh shit, he does. Or as they call it, the tubes.
Yeah.
All right, or the cans. All right, we should stop talking because we're getting. We should move on. You brought this on yourself, Dan.
Okay, so we're gonna build a workshop. No, we're gonna build a workshop at one point. So Dan, this is my 4th brand, and it's like the most independent brand connected to me as a person.
Are we
Big Igloo
tonight?
What's that?
Myra's over here like, I'm gonna replay this tonight to help me sleep. Are we boring you, Myra? Are you not entertained?
Yeah, just wait until 3 more months into this lockdown, and you're trying to figure out why your house is too hot, and you don't know how to build a dome and pack dirt on top of it.
You'll be replaying this shit then, right?
Well, so check this out. One of the products I want to build here is called Bug Out in a Box, and to give people a geodesic dome kit to provide semi-permanent shelter where you have a dome like the 16-footer that's sitting out there that really is a comfortable space that 2 people could live in indefinitely. And what you could do is you could have this in a box. You can have plastic sheeting that goes over it, secured with zip ties, sealed with tape. So it's at least, weatherproof and sealed. And, you can, there are all sorts of ways that you can reinforce it and to give people not just this bug out in a box with the structure, but with a week's worth of MREs, with water purification tablets, with fishing gear, with whatever, they think is appropriate, be able to build this out as a kit and say, you can live in a city and know that if shit hits the fan, if you can get out in time, grab this, throw it in the back of your car, throw it in your truck, throw it, in the back of an SUV, and you can get out to national parkland and know that, if you got water, you got a week's worth of MREs there, that you could probably transition away to being comfortable indefinitely with that, or at least be able to ride out, any kind of martial law crisis. And I don't think we're at the point now where that's really justified. Like I tell people, hey, if you'd rather come camping with me and hang out here than be in a city out of work right now, yeah, that probably makes sense. But if you're comfortable in a city, it's probably better to ride this one out. But if I could, I'd rather be where I'm at right now at a homestead, totally off grid, down 3 miles of private dirt road where I'm as safe as can be. And if I didn't have this, I would want to bug out in a box, whether it's my, this is a product that doesn't even exist yet, but whether it's my version or your own version, to be like, yeah, you should be able to punch out at any time and be able to survive comfortably with your family for, at least a week off grid independently.
Agreed. Yeah. I've one thing this has shown me is I'm not prepared. Like, even when I go to the store and try to prepare, like, I went and bought, like, some canned goods. Like, my idea of stocking up on canned goods is buying 5 cans of green beans. Like, that's...
Are you gonna eat those cold?
What?
Are you gonna eat those cold?
Ew, no.
So
I do.
because this is one of the things that like people, like, even when you're prepping, right? A lot of people don't take into consideration where you're going to get your heat from.
Yeah. Well, what if you have a fire source, or you can make fire? Like, you can always heat. Like,
That could be it.
The bug out in the box will include several good lighters.
But will it include campfire wood?
It'll include a hatchet.
Dude,
perfect.
And a handsaw.
My life right now is, on the weekends, I imbibe to put myself in a good state, and then sit there and watch bushcraft how-to videos for like 5 hours.
That, you know, and it's funny, all this stuff that I'm like, I could tell you, like, and I get it if Myra's getting bored when I'm geeking out on like thermal properties of my build. As I said, stop me. But there's something cool about this when you get into like some kind of hands-on, you know, I don't know how to put a circle around what I'm trying to describe here, but some kind of hands-on survivalist, some survivalist off-grid, you know, construction, you know, whatever it is, you go down these rabbit holes and you can just spend hours and hours and hours researching and never get anything done. It's like, this is the first world problem of our time, is this information overload, where it's so easy. It's such a great indulgence to sit back and just binge watch Netflix for a day while you're on lockdown.
That's the interesting thing. Like when they say like nobody knows how to make a pencil, right? Because there's like all these different components to it. Like think about like all the things that we're like the creature comforts or whatever, like that we have in society, that like, oh yeah, we just go to the store and we get the food and we bring it home, we turn on the oven. And like, think about like, okay, if you had none of that, how would you create that like cheeseburger sandwich out of nothing? If you really wanted to create an apple pie from scratch, you would first need to create the universe. Like there's a rabbit hole down everything, and it really is amazing. And you don't like, I mean, shit, a cheeseburger, you don't know that there are professionals who know how to turn milk into cheese, and there are professionals who know how to grow the cows to turn them into milk. Like, that's not how that works, but
yeah, that's like, why everybody should be vegan. I'm serious. I'm veganish. I'm striving towards veganism, and if you can get, you know, I'm more of a vegan. I think you can eat eggs and have ethical symbiotic relationships with chickens and just eat their eggs and get.
Call that a vegan?
So
yeah, vegan is a one term for it.
Vaguely a vegan.
I'm a vegetarian, and I have been since I was like a very small kid. I don't eat eggs, but only because I don't like them. Like, I have access to free-range duck eggs, and I don't understand why a vegan would have any objection to a duck who lays eggs, who has a fantastic life. Like,
right. It's not that. It's that 99.9% of eggs consumed by human beings today are cruelly exploitatively taken from factory farm chickens who are tortured for their entire life. Like, there's no way you can excuse that.
No, and that's half the reason I don't eat eggs, and the other half is I think they're disgusting, and I can't stand the smell or texture, taste, whatever. But unfortunately, every once in a while, I need to eat some baked goods, and I know that they're in there. But I forgot my point. I was talking about free-range duck eggs. Like, I know these ducks have...
Okay, so at the same time, you are stealing from the duck, because that duck is expecting that to turn into a child.
It's not fertilized. If the duck has not been raped
yet,
how it all duck sex is rape.
This is why I hesitate from calling myself a true vegan, because I'm like, yeah, you call that exploitive, that's okay. I think that's a positive, not cruel, symbiotic relationship with an animal. There's no need to kill it, but if you capture it or lure it and domesticate, like my chickens here, when we have chickens, we don't have any right now, but when we have chickens at the garden here, they're free ranged on a regular basis. So they choose. Have I tricked them? Yeah. Is it exploitive? Okay, maybe.
Can they understand that?
But the thing with livestock like that
technically
is,
voluntary.
okay, but think about it this way: like these ducks have to be put away at night in their coops because otherwise murders will happen. Like hawks, raccoons will come and kill these fucking things, and
Right,
so you're
it's symbiotic. Yes, exactly. So I free range my chickens here. They choose to come back every night to the coop and abandon their eggs for me to eat, and they don't object. They could leave this relationship if they wanted to. They're dumb. Chickens are really freaking dumb. It's kind of, so you want to call that exploitive? Okay, I don't care. I'm not going to argue with that. Don't let me call myself. Send the vegan police after me. Woo.
You could argue that killing them is not necessarily because okay, look, they're gonna die at some point, right? So at what point can you say like, okay, a chicken lives like 5 years, so when it's 4.5, I'm gonna kill it and eat it. It's gonna die anyway. You're killing it quick and easy instead of like, letting it get sick and like fucking die.
So that could be a scale more humane if you were doing it that way. And I respect people who have chickens and do that. If they stop laying and they know they're going to die soon, they kill them and eat them. But, I certainly respect that a lot more than factory farming. But what you're talking about there from a capitalist perspective, it creates an incredible inefficiency if you're saying I'm going to raise animals and support them their entire life with agriculture and feed until they get to the point where they're about to die and then kill them humanely to spare them from death. So so it's kind of a matter of degrees. Can you kill it? And so I have
right. I'm gonna kill it 1 year earlier to save.
Right, so I still have a lot more respect for hunters who kill their own meat and they go out and they kill old bulls. It's the minimal cruelty to get what they feel that they need. But when we can do it all vegan now, like there's no reason to have this conversation at all. Like,
hold up. Like I said,
I have a reason. There's nothing tastes better than a perfectly cooked steak.
Yeah, so you're killing an animal for pleasure. I refuse to do that. That's unnecessary. There are alternative means of pleasure, and there are at this point already. There's no excuse. We have created artificial meat that is better than a lot of meat. Not every product. They haven't done it with a steak yet, as far as I know. Beyond Burgers, the Impossible Whopper,
those are
better. They're better than regular burgers.
No.
Okay, I agree with all of that, Adam. I love that they're doing that and the innovation with the lab-grown meat substitute or whatever. But what about the deer and the wild boars in Texas and all that? Like those animals.
That's great. Yeah, if it's conscientious and it's in a conscientious management of an environment or control of a larger ecosystem, and you're trying to maximize life or enjoyment in a bigger scale without unnecessary cruelty, and then here, this is why I call myself vegan-ish. I think we can recognize that an animal suffers from experiences pain and doesn't want to die and has a claim to self-ownership in a sense as much as any human does, and you can respect that and still say, yeah, and we're going to kill animals in these situations, right? It's like I'll go to the other extreme on abortion with this. You can say, I'm totally pro-life, and I recognize that having an abortion is ending a human life, but if it's saving the life of a mother, yes, that abortion should happen. And that there are, that just because we take a recognition of absolute principle doesn't mean we have to live absolute lifestyles. Nobody's perfect. Even out here, I say, I use Bitcoin as much as possible. If I did, but most of my financial transactions are with the dollar. I hate that. I wish I had, a more convenient mechanism that made it worthwhile for me to opt out of the dollar.
So speaking of which, it looks like you had a haircut quite recently. How did that happen?
I had a haircut recently.
It looks like it. Your hair's pretty.
It's like a mohawk going on there.
I went a little short on the sides, but I think it's just like the light and the camera angle. It's pretty normal.
Oh. Okay, so I guess my point was just gonna say there's a lot of black market haircuts going on right now.
Oh, I cut my own hair. I haven't been to the barbershop in over a decade. I love cutting my own.
Oh,
I was ready to shave this mess off.
The light is really hitting it on this side, and it looks kind of like a mohawk right now, doesn't it?
It totally
Yeah.
does.
It's not.
All right, we're after 9. Do you guys want to wrap?
Yes.
Okay. You guys, Zach's always wiped at this point. Much better.
The dark side. See, now it looks normal.
That is quite a difference.
When you had the glasses on, do you remember, and maybe you weren't into wrestling, but do you remember Edge and Christian?
Don't think so.
Oh, well, you look like Christian with your glasses on. I've been geeking out about it the whole time, but I figured you wouldn't know who that was, so it was just me geeking out.
Is this a WWF tag team thing?
Yeah.
What was the name?
Edge and Christian?
Eds and Christian.
Edge, like the edge
Oh,
of the blade.
Edge.
Yeah.
Edge, yeah.
So
Sorry.
they were in that big ladder match that everyone remembers.
I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Like the night the Attitude Era died.
That sounds like Cartman's Christian rock band.
Right.
Sorry, bring that back
All right.
around to South Park.
Dan, plug your stuff. Adam, plug your stuff. And we're going to wrap it up.
Behrman2020.com, taxation and stuff.cards. All kinds of fun stuff there. Go check it out.
Awesome. Adam.
TheFreedomLine.com gets you to everything I've got going on right now, one way or another, except for our new project with Big Igloo Geodesics. I love saying that. Is that okay?
Yes, it's fun to hear.
What?
I
Who do
wanted
you think
to
you're
explain
offending?
this. Huh?
Who do you think you're offending?
No. That like Big Igloo Geodesics, if someone goes, oh, that's civil war or revolution, I'm saying yes. It's the peaceful revolution of building off-grid housing and having independence and creating your own living space. So it's kind of like a reclaiming, a de-violencing of the concept of the boogaloo, which you can't say or they'll censor you. So yeah, thefreedomline.com, you can find my book for free, my merch there. You can find kokeshforpresident.com and Adam versus the Man doing a live show 5 days a week now. Oh, and I should tell people one thing I showed you guys in the pre-show. I took a coronavirus test today.
Oh, yes. Show everybody. Tell everybody how you got it and all that and how easy it was. Just super quick.
Yeah, and let's see, is it can you read it there?
I can't.
There we go. There we go. Ah, there we go. Look at that. Perfectly clear.
So this was super simple. Pinprick of the finger. You put it in the tester there, and then it gives you your results in how long?
So 5 minutes, 10 minutes to be decisive, but it showed it pretty clearly in 5 minutes. Didn't really change much after that. So it is a really cool test, and this is by the website is, man, now I'm gonna forget, the soberstick.com, thesoberstick.com, and it looks like they're about to get approved to do these. They've had them for months. They've been using them in a lot of countries. A lot of the statistics that we've seen are with this test, and it's amazing because it's so freaking cheap. I mean, you've seen some of the numbers, but it's also super fast. It's like, a 2-cent piece of plastic,
right,
a little printing, the element inside, and there's obviously that's the expensive part. And then it comes with an alcohol swab, and it comes with this little finger prick, and I actually screwed this part up. But when you go give blood and they give you a little finger prick to test your iron,
right.
So I had to take it apart to get the needle part of it exposed, and so I did that. I was live on Facebook, like, oh man, I'm fucking this up live. But I took a pair of pliers and I wrenched the needle out and wiped it, and then you have this little pipette, this little plastic thing, and you fill up the little tip with blood, and then you put it in that little hole there, slot A. You see where it's red there? That's where I actually put. That's from putting my blood, and that little smear is from it running further down the test strip. So you put it in there, and then 2 or 3 drops of a buffer liquid. And for just any kind of saline solution, we had saline nasal drops, like in a spray bottle. We just squeezed it delicately and dropped in.
Oh,
And what's that?
Oh, so yep, everybody's got one of those laying around.
Oh no, saline nasal spray, like you get it at any drugstore.
Yeah, we
So
always
most people say. So it's and if they had to ship you a little dropper vial with these, they could. Like if it wouldn't be a big deal. They probably would if they weren't struggling so much just to get this basic test out. But
so how do we smuggle them in?
Well, it's hopefully
where
about to be
they
approved.
Yeah, I hope so. But assuming they don't, how do we? I'm down to like we can ship them to Mexico and then I'll ship them up there in individual boxes. Because I know, because I was actually trying to get promotional condoms for my campaign, and there's like a limit. So the factory is FDA approved, but I personally need to get an FDA approval to import condoms from an FDA approved manufacturer. But I found out this loophole is if you get something like 10,000, that's considered a sample because these companies are like, they normally import like millions. So they're like,
right.
10,000, that's a sample. So you might be able to get like 10,000 of these tests in under the same loophole, depending on where they're made or who's, but I don't know. It sounds like it's a U.S. company that's been shipping them out everywhere else.
And my book printer, I get my books from China, and there's so many things I would want to say about this that's relevant here that I can't say on the record right now. But they sent me an email like 2 or 3 weeks ago offering to send me masks, and that's why I want to get custom printed freedom masks or bandanas at least, or maybe like for the national convention we get a hashtag We Are Not Afraid on masks in lp.org to say, look, this is what we're doing. Like, we're not going to be shut down. We're gonna protect ourselves and be respectful if this is what people think the threat is. But we're not going to let government stop us from meeting. Exactly. Anyway, all right, that's it. TheFreedomLine.com. Well, sorry.
Awesome. You're just a little long-winded. We're used to it. It's fine. No, I really, really hope the national convention happens because I'm jonesing to see everybody on a national level. But I'm just gonna wait and see like everybody else, and hopefully it'll happen. But thanks you guys both for coming on. I love you both so much. And again, Adam, I'm sorry for my last interview with you in person.
No, it was great. No, those are the kind of interviews that make this worthwhile, make it fun.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, that was really drunk and disorderly.
I mean, you have it in the title. You got to live up to it.
All right.
Right. Well, I took it a little far that day, but yeah. Thanks, Myra. You're to blame. You and Jules are to blame for that whole situation.
All right, everyone. We'll see you, God, a bunch of times between now and the end of the pandemic.
Hey, Raptor.
What?
Taxation is theft.
That's right.